Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Bree. I had a lot of people that really liked my Five Cheeses the American cheese canon, and they've requested me to do other videos of that nature. I already have to some extent, but I've broken them up into individual foods like cheeseburgers, hot dogs, etc. But I thought I would do a follow-up to the cheese video. No, I'm not talking about more cheeses because outside the five cheeses I've already outlined, the rest of them don't really exist or matter in America outside of like your fancy restaurants. I'm talking your Swiss, your provolones, etc. I don't even know the names of the rest of them because I don't know that many cheeses because I live in Nowhereville. But, well, I did live in Dallas for a couple of years, but good God was Dallas overwhelming. I'm talking about cheese dishes. Now, these are foods that are not necessarily made out of cheese. They've got other ingredients, but they have the word cheese in the name because the cheese is the component that glues it all together. Now, I don't know if this is, I'm going to limit it to just 5 cheese dinners or cheese meals, but I'm going to talk about the staples, the ones that are the most American cheese dishes. I'm not going to get into the did it originate in America or not, I don't care. But is it commonplace, guaranteed wherever you live in America, you can find it in a restaurant or you can find the ingredients to make it in your local grocery store. The number one most obvious, which has a couple of varieties, about 3 or 4 varieties, is the classic mac and cheese. Now, your standard mac and cheese is macaroni, which is why it's called mac and cheese, macaroni and cheese. Your standard macaroni and cheese is your macaroni noodle boiled to softness. Not too soft, not too hard, like glue texture. You want it to be like glue. You don't want it to be crunchy, and you don't want it to be mushy because then it turns to oatmeal and ew. You don't want that. And it's, you cook it with butter. It can be variations of butter, margarine, vegetable oil, whatever. And usually cheddar cheese or American cheese. If you want to get fancy, you can use Velveeta cheese. But it's usually a cheese powder that you add to the mixture and cook it up. Your first mac and cheese variety that I would argue is probably the second most common next to classic mac and cheese is macaroni and cheese, no change, plus hot dogs. Yes, a lot of Americans cook hot dogs separate while they're cooking their mac and cheese, and once the mac and cheese is all assembled and ready to serve, they chop up the hot dogs, throw it in the mac and cheese, stir it up. Maybe you season with salt and pepper or garlic powder, garlic salt, or some combination or variation of that. Maybe onion powder, if you're weird. But that's, number 2. Pretty common. That's a staple in America. You're going to find mac and cheese everywhere in the country. You're going to find hot dogs everywhere in the country. So no matter where you are, even probably Hawaii and Alaska, maybe, I don't know, but probably, you're going to be able to assemble macaroni and cheese or mac and cheese plus hot dogs. The second variety is where you substitute the macaroni noodles with other types of noodles. That can be shells. It can be the little gear wheels. I don't like those. I don't know what they're called, but they look like gear wheels. I don't like them, but some people do. I guess. Maybe. Or they think they do. I don't know. Whatever. Some people do. It just provides a slightly different texture to the macaroni. It's still mac and cheese. The next variety of mac and cheese, which is not... It's pretty well known. I would say it's the third most popular variety of mac and cheese. Classic, and then classic plus hot dogs, is your chili mac. Now, what is chili mac? If you live outside the U.S., you're probably scratching your head. It's Standard classic macaroni and cheese, no different. With or without hot dogs, optional. And then you just add a can of chili. And yes, it's usually a can of chili you got from the supermarket. Your supermarket can be a Walmart, Supercenter, or a Target, or I don't know, a Family Dollar. Just whatever your local grocery store is, you probably got a can of chili. And by the way, yeah, it has beans in it. If it doesn't have beans in it, it's not chili. You Texans are wrong, and I will never give you an inch on this. I'm sorry, you're just flat out wrong. Because if it's just ground beef and what, jalapenos, is that what you call chili? I don't understand Texas chili. It's not chili, it's just ground beef. It's Sloppy Joe. You asshole. It's just fucking Sloppy Joe. Okay, it's not chili, it's Sloppy Joe. Shut up. It's not chili. But you can add chili, and it's usually canned chili. Now, you want canned chili and beans. Maybe it's, Bush's or Nally or your local, maybe it's like, Great Valley or whatever. But it's just standard chili, and that's how you make chili mac. You can get the hot chili if you want. You can add jalapenos if you want, or other peppers, habaneros, or, God forbid, Carolina Reapers, I guess. You probably don't want to add diced onions, but you could theoretically do so. And then you can top it. You can top it with shredded cheddar cheese if you'd like, or a single slice of American cheese and just let it melt, and then stir it in. That is also acceptable. Any other cheeses? Probably not. Now, I had a hard time with this video because, honestly, there really aren't a lot of additional cheese dishes that are commonplace in America. The rest of them are regional dishes that you might be able to find in a metro or an urban area outside of the region it originated, but most likely they're just regional dishes. Now, you do have cheesy casserole, but that's just any casserole you make with cheese added. Nothing special. Now, there's obviously, grilled cheese, and you can also have grilled ham and cheese. That's not really a cheese dish, but cheese is in the title, so let's talk about it. Grilled cheese is a sandwich, obviously, 2 slices of bread, usually white bread, but you can use wheat bread, I guess, or other types of bread, maybe. I don't think you would want to use sourdough, but I suppose you could, if you're adventurous. I don't recommend it. There are certain instances where you want sourdough. For example, the Sourdough Jack from Jack in the Box. Not a sponsor, but a damn good sandwich. And no, a hot dog, not a sandwich. Hamburger, cheeseburger is a sandwich. But I digress. Okay. Now, your grilled cheese, you grill, and usually butter, 2 slices of bread. You grill them on the stove, that's why it's called grilled. You could conceivably butter them and cook them in the toaster oven, but then that's toasted. It's not the same, but you could do it. And then you put a single slice of American cheese on either slice. So you put you cook the bread both sides, and then you leave it on the skillet. You add a single slice of American cheese on the left bread, and a single slice of American cheese on the right bread. You let it melt a little bit. You put the two together, and then you mush it, and you let it melt into a goo, and that is your classic American grilled cheese sandwich you can get anywhere in the country. And it sometimes, if you're getting it at a restaurant, or if you're at grandma's house and she's cooking it for dinner, dinner is the noon meal, supper is the evening meal. Let's get that out of the way. Let's make that commonplace. Stop calling supper dinner, goddammit! You sound like an asshole when you do it. Okay. Let's stop the supper erasure, is what I'm trying to say. Okay? Lunch is a sack you take on a field trip in grade school. Stop calling it lunch. And I know you pretentious East Coasters are gonna, what about brunch? Brunch doesn't exist outside of New York City, okay? It's a thing y'all weirdos made up, and the rest of the country doesn't give a fuck because it doesn't exist. It's not a thing outside of New York. Maybe Boston, I don't know. Brunch doesn't exist. Shut up. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. I've been to every single state west of the Mississippi except for North Dakota. Maybe I drove through it, I don't remember, when I was a teenager on my way to somewhere else. I don't remember, but I'll say I've been to every state in the west. Outside of the big metros, and I'm talking like Salt Lake, Seattle, any of the major cities in California, Vegas, Reno, brunch doesn't exist. I don't even know if you can find brunch in Boise, Idaho. I haven't been to Boise in a while. I make it a point not to go. Just like I go out of my way to avoid Salt Lake at all costs. I do as much of my living and commerce in Twin Falls as I can. The rest I get from the internets. eBay, Amazon, Walmart, etc. And in this case, I'm talking about Walmart.com or the Walmart app. If you don't got the Walmart app on your phone, you're not a proper American, okay? Just stop what you... God damn it. Why does that keep happening? I have got to remember to move the damn mouse. I wave my arm too much. Anyways, stop what you're doing and download the Walmart app. You'll thank me later. Trust me on this. It's better than DoorDash. Although, to be fair, as someone who has limited mobility, I walk with a cane and don't like to leave the house. I do occasionally DoorDash from time to time. Because Pizza Hut went stupid and got rid of their delivery drivers and they rely on DoorDash. And I can get Taco Bell delivered. I never could before. So, thank the gods, whichever one of you, I don't know if it was Gaia or Bridget or Lilith, whichever one of you gods gave us DoorDash, thank you. It wasn't Joshua, aka Jesus. We're not going into that, but there you go. Jesus gave us, Nazis and white racists. He didn't mean to. It wasn't his intention, but he accidentally did, maybe not on purpose, but he accidentally gave us the Nazis, and I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of that. White supremacists, that's the word I was trying to find. Got a little tongue-tied. I was talking about cheese. Now, you can add a slice of ham, and you grill the ham separate, and then it can be any kind of ham, I don't care, and you can put it on your grilled cheese, and now you got a grilled ham and cheese. And I say ham, it has to be pork. It doesn't count if it's fake ham, veggie ham, and it certainly doesn't count if it's turkey ham, because turkey ham is not ham, it's just turkey. Stop calling it turkey ham. It's turkey. And no, that's a grilled turkey and cheese sandwich. That's just a grilled turkey sandwich. Because you put cheese on a turkey sandwich because it's the only way to make turkey palatable outside of Thanksgiving dinner. You notice how everybody calls it Thanksgiving dinner, but they eat it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I rest my case. Now, I glossed over the cheesy based casseroles. To the best of my knowledge, there's not really a cheese casserole, except there kind of is, but cheese casserole isn't just, it's not just a bunch of melted cheeses in a casserole form. It's another type of casserole you just load up with cheese. It can be shepherd's pie. It could be your standard Midwestern casserole. It could be tater tot casserole, which tater tot casserole, thumbs up. I should do a whole video on casseroles because I really want to talk about tater tot casserole because tater tots are the unsung heroes of the Midwestern culinary diet. If you're not eating tater tots, what's wrong with you? Eat more tater tots. Eat more taters in general. Not just French fries. Try scallop potatoes. That's another cheesy food. You have scallop potatoes, but you also have cheesy potatoes. What are cheesy potatoes? You notice how I sometimes interchange the way I say potato and potato? My native dialect is to say potato, because that's how the word is pronounced. But I've been surrounded by weirdos and freaks that say it potato because of the Lord of the Rings said it that way, and they think that's how you're supposed to say it. And so I occasionally slip up and say potato, kind of on purpose because I've heard it so many times. But potato is how I natively say it. As a kid, I would just say, "Give me some mashed potatoes, please." So it's not a mix-up. It's just sort of one of those. I've lived in enough parts of the country that, you know, the two variations of the word are interchangeable. But if you get confused, just say tater, and that's where we get tater tots. And yes, you can have cheesy tater tot casserole. Not as good as standard tater tot casserole. Just, we'll give it its own video, but what is tater tot casserole? You start with ground beef and you add diced onions. So you grill it on a skillet with onions, and then you add tater tots. That's where, you know, the non-trademarked, whatever your local store calls a tater tot, because the word tater tot is actually trademarked. I believe it's Ore-Ida, if I'm not mistaken. But it could be Lamb Weston, but I'm pretty sure it's Ore-Ida. Lamb Weston is the big potato factory near me. They've got a whole. They're the big employer in the area, so I'm usually familiar with Lamb Weston. I used to work at Lamb Weston, by the way, because, you know, when I was a kid, I needed to make a paycheck. Miserable, back-breaking work. Don't do it. But I digress. Moving on. And then you top it with, you add a mixture of tomato soup, and you add cream of mushroom soup. You can add actual mushrooms if you want. I don't advise it. You could add celery. Celery, by the way, I'll have to do a whole video on vegetables. You can add celery to a lot more things than you know. But we'll push that aside. And you could add black olives. Black olive is the universal garnish that goes with everything. If you're eating foods and you want to make it better, just add some black olives. They're better than tomatoes in most cases. And then you sprinkle a layer of mashed potatoes on top, and then a handful. A handful, and you do this of shredded cheddar cheese on top of it all. So tater tot casserole is kind of a cheesy casserole, but honestly, nearly every casserole that I am aware of has a sprinkled layer of usually cheddar cheese, sometimes provolone, but usually cheddar cheese on top anyways. Sometimes American or Velveeta cheese. American cheese and Velveeta are cousins. They're not siblings. They're in the same family tree. You'll see them at the family reunion, but Velveeta cheese is not a type of American cheese. It's its own flavored rubber is what it is. Cheese flavored rubber. It's good, but that's what it is. It's just melted. It's not rubber from a rubber plant. It's some kind of edible rubber concoction that scientists fabricated in a lab somewhere. Just like American cheese is. I don't know what the recipe is for American cheese, but I know it don't taste nothing like no Velveeta cheese, I'll tell you that. American cheese is the best cheese on the planet. Velveeta is a maybe adequate substitute in certain instances. Otherwise, stick to regular old American cheese. I'm sorry. Velveeta is... I'm not a fan of Velveeta cheese, to tell you the truth. Only in, like, certain instances am I okay with Velveeta cheese. I'll just throw it out there. Velveeta cheese is like Cheez Whiz. It's only acceptable, like, properly acceptable, not as a substitute if you have no other choice, but as like, this is what Velveeta exists to be used for. It's your meat and cheese, cheese, meat, and cracker tray. Ritz crackers, slices of ham or other, bologna or salami, whatever, summer sausage, whatever, and then Velveeta cheese. You slice it up into little squares of cheese, and you cracker, Velveeta cheese, meat, another Ritz cracker, put it in the mouth, you're good to go. That's the only truly acceptable use of Velveeta. That's what it's intended to be used for. All other uses are, if there's no American or cheddar cheese, you can substitute it with Velveeta, but you shouldn't run out of American or cheddar cheese at your grocery store most of the time, if your grocer is doing their job. If you run out of those two cheeses, your grocer's not doing their job. If you live in America. I don't know about Canada. Do y'all call it American cheese, or do you give it do you call it Canadian cheese? Or do you just call it cheese I don't know. What? I'm asking. Canadians, British, Germans, Europeans, Asians, Middle Easterners, Latinos. If you live outside, Africans, wherever you live outside of America, what do you call American cheese if you have it at all? Or does it just not exist in your country? It's that processed cheese that's made out of chemicals and goop, which is why we legally can't call it cheese. But who the fuck cares? Who gets to decide what is and isn't cheese? If blue cheese can be considered cheese, or cottage cheese can be considered cheese, American cheese can be considered cheese. Alright? I don't make the rules. I just break them because the people that make the rules are assholes. Culinary snobs get under my skin. And yes, I use cottage cheese, not ricotta, in my lasagna. And, yeah, I know I'm going to give somebody an aneurysm. I put cottage cheese in my manicotti, not ricotta cheese. Because I'm an American, goddammit. I'm not Italian. I don't have to do it the way Italians do. I have no Italian blood or ancestry in my family lineage. We're mostly German with a little bit of Irish, a pinch of maybe Welsh, we can't confirm, and probably some English, because if you have ancestors from Ireland or Scotland, you probably had some British English invasion into your bloodline somewhere, because it is what it is. By the way, proper English, Anglo-Saxon descended British, or those who interbred with the native British occupants of the British Isles, you're German anyways, okay? You're just too scared, too chicken shit to call yourselves German, but the Anglo-Saxons came from Germany. They're Germans. The British are Germans. I don't care. We don't have to get into the messy situation with the world wars. Y'all are German. Get over it. English is just a bastardized German dialect is all it is. It's not even a proper language. It's a German, Irish, Gaelic, Scottish, French, Italian, Latin, Native American, Creole bastard. That's what English is. And no, I'm not trying to be all, master race here. I'm just telling you My ancestors are German. We have no Italians in us, so I'm not putting ricotta cheese in my lasagna because I don't have to. Okay, I'm going to put cottage cheese in it because I'm an American who's descended from mostly German immigrants. We don't have to get into the whole messy situation I've talked about. We don't have to, it is what it is. But my ancestors, my family didn't come to America until the 1950s. There were no people in my immediate family in the United States until the 1950s. So all of that Civil War, pre-Civil Rights, all of that, Trail of Tears stuff, that's y'all Americans. That's not my family. We came here later. We're a family of immigrants who settled in America. Like every single American that isn't a Native American. Technically, everybody comes from somewhere. Humans migrate. We all came from the jungles of Africa, and even before that, we were amoebas swimming in the ocean. So, technically, we all come from the bottom of the ocean because we were bottom dwellers. But that's just science. We don't have to get into it because I'm not going to shit on your culture. The Iroquois, the Cherokee, the Navajo, etc., all the various native tribes, they were here first. This was their land. So I do have to respect that. But my family, we're German immigrants. We don't have to respect Italian immigrants' culinary mistakes. If y'all want to put ricotta cheese or toe jelly in your, which is what ricotta cheese is, in your food, go for it. You're eating fungus. You're not eating cheese. I know technically I'm backwards because ricotta cheese is, I don't know what proper cheese, and cottage cheese is an actual fungus, but I'm an American. I'm allowed to be a belligerent bitch, okay? Because it's our way of life. If you've ever watched any American media, you know this. Or as Chris Tucker would say, you know this, man. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there because I'm an American. And Chris Tucker is an American fucking treasure. I just hope he didn't do any right-wing or controversial bullshit because then I have to retract what I just said about him. He is friends with Ice Cube, who turned out to be a MAGA piece of shit just like Snoop Dogg, but we don't have to get into that. And hey, just because you're a MAGA doesn't mean you're a total idiot. There are left-wingers that are idiots too. There are liberals that are idiots too. Let's be real. But you can eat whatever you eat. That's all I care about. I don't give a fuck about your politics. We're talking food here. Now, some other cheeses or cheese-related dishes are cheese curds. And these come in different varieties. Now, cheese curd is a specific thing. It's a type of cheese that's deep-fried. Probably breaded, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm calling these the cheese curd deep-fried cheese family. These are things like jalapeno poppers. They're usually made with cheese. I don't know what type of cheese it's a white cheese jalapeno poppers are usually made out of. I don't know if it's provolone. Provolone's the only white cheese I know besides Swiss. I don't know very many cheeses. I'm sorry. I'm not a cheese expert. Maybe, what's the other one? There's another one. Colby Jack? I don't think you're putting Colby Jack in your jalapeno poppers. But then you have mozzarella is the other one, which I think I mentioned mozzarella in my, because, pizza, lasagna, spaghetti, Italian foods, and also Parmesan. So I guess I do know some white cheeses. I just don't know all of them. Also, I don't buy provolone, so unless I'm at a restaurant and they put it on my cheeseburger, I don't consume it. I couldn't tell you what it tastes like anyways. I just know the word. And the only reason why I know the word is because when I worked at Domino's, we introduced a pizza that used provolone instead of, instead of mozzarella cheese. It was called the Philly cheesesteak pizza. Garbage. I'm glad they got rid of it because it used instead of pizzas. I'll just rant. Domino's in about 2004, 2003 had a pizza called the Philly cheesesteak. It was your standard pizza dough, and instead of pizza sauce, they used a ketchup and mustard sauce mixture of pizza sauce, and then they put square or actually I think it was triangular strips of provolone cheese, and then strips of Philly cheesesteak meat, I guess, onions, mushrooms, and then threw it in the oven, and they called it the Philly cheesesteak pizza. It was garbage. I tried it because when they introduced it, the franchise owner cooked a batch of them and said, everybody try it so we can upsell it, and nobody did because we all tried it, and we're like, listen, boss, this ain't going to sell, and it didn't because it was garbage pizza. That's the only point of reference I have of provolone outside of maybe I've been in a restaurant somewhere and they put it on my cheeseburger. But cheeseburger is another one that has the word cheese in it. Well, it's basically just any hamburger you add cheese to. You're going to add cheese to every sandwich you eat. Bologna, ham, turkey, whatever. You know, if you're eating a Subway sandwich, or you're eating a Philly cheesesteak sandwich, or even a meatball sandwich, you're putting some type of cheese on it. But cheeseburger has cheese in the name. I don't know why. Your your Subway Italian sandwich that also has cheese in it. We don't call it the cheesy Italian Subway. Maybe we should. I don't know. But cheeseburger, just a hamburger with a slice of American, maybe cheddar, possibly, maybe provolone. So I've heard people do this, or maybe Swiss cheese if you're weird. I've had Swiss cheese on a cheeseburger. No, thank you. I don't want to make that mistake ever again. So restaurants, make damn sure you label it a Swiss burger, because I ain't eating it. And if you try to trick me into eating it, I'm gonna go full Karen and make a scene, because I don't eat Swiss cheese. It's disgusting. Swiss cheese is the equivalent of starfish excrement, okay? It should not be consumed by humans. Or anything other than dung beetles, I guess. Well, let's get back to the cheese curd family. You got the jalapeno poppers, you got actual cheese curds, mozzarella cheese sticks. You take a stick of mozzarella. Usually you just go to the grocery store and you buy a package of those string cheese. Those are made out of mozzarella cheese. They're just string cheeses. They're about this big. They're little tubes of mozzarella cheese. You bread them with whatever you season them with. You deep fry them, and then you put them in your mouth, and then you deposit them in the toilet 45 minutes later. That's how it works. Now, we do put cheese on so many other things that aren't cheese meals, but I'm trying to focus on the ones that cheese is in the name, or cheese is essential component. But we've already talked about pizza, so we don't need to go into that. Obviously, you probably put cheese, some type of cheese sauce or whatever, on your fully loaded hot dogs, or your cheese-infused cheddar brats. Those are good. Oh my god, I love cheddar brats. Alright, what else is there? Okay, this is why I didn't want to do this follow-up video, because I don't really know that many universal cheese dishes. Like I said, there are regional dishes that I could talk about, but you can mostly only get them in that region or in major metro areas that have some type of restaurant that features food from that region. Like if you're in Dallas, there's a Canadian restaurant that serves poutine. I don't know if it's authentic poutine, but poutine has cheese curds in it, from what I'm told. And for some ungodly reason, brown gravy when it should be white gravy, because country gravy is the universal American gravy. Yellow gravy, whether it's turkey or chicken, I don't care. It should only be utilized during holiday dinners, more specifically Thanksgiving. And then brown gravy is you put it on your Salisbury steak, or you put it on your hamburger steak, which is basically a Salisbury steak but made out of hamburger, which is essentially a whatever. That's it. There are no other acceptable uses of brown gravy ever. Gravy is country gravy. It's white gravy, milk-based, with either breakfast sausage or bacon if it's a breakfast gravy, or ground beef if it's a dinner supper gravy. I'm going to have to do a whole video on country gravy foods, or foods that are topped with country gravy. Because if you live in Great Britain, I've seen videos like, let's say, Lost in the Pond, where he heard the word biscuits and gravy and he gagged because he's imagining British biscuits and British gravy. Yeah, they use brown gravy in Britain. Y'all need to learn what white gravy is. And I guess a biscuit is an Oreo cookie without the Oreo components. I don't understand y'all British. I can't comprehend your weird vernacular. It gives me heartburn. But biscuits and gravy is just a sidebar. That's an acceptable use of sausage gravy. There's also the food, the meal. I cuss in my videos, but this is what it's called. It's shorthand if you're under the age or your parents are strict. SOS, but it's shit on a shingle. It's essentially bread, usually white bread, topped with country gravy, and maybe onions and mushrooms or some other type of garnish component. Or maybe it's topped on top of a hamburger or whatever. But it's, if you grew up in the country like I did, and I don't mean rural country, if you're a country folk, you know what SOS is. But we're not doing the video on gravy, but I probably made every British person gag in their mouth just now that watches this video. I'm sorry, but yes, Americans eat a food called shit on a shingle. Look it up. It has some varieties. It has its roots in the U.S. military, so, it's kind of a pseudo-patriotic type meal, but it's not universal, like I said. So we're talking about meals you can get anywhere. You can get the ingredients to make a SOS anywhere, but you're not going to find it on the menu of a Denny's. Most likely, probably not. Or even a Red Robin or an IHOP. Maybe you can get it at the hillbilly establishments like Waffle House or Cracker Barrel, but I'm not a hillbilly, and I don't live in close enough proximity to those pieces of shit because I'm not a redneck. I don't eat at Cracker Barrel because I'm a proper human with standards. And I don't eat at Waffle House because I don't want to get shot. Because I heard rumor. I just go by what I see in the Florida Man headlines. They all take place at a Waffle House. Florida Man decapitated a gator in the parking lot of a Waffle House. Those types of headlines. So I don't know anything about Waffle House. I'm too scared to eat there, and I don't live within 1,000 miles of a Waffle House, so I don't have to worry about it. And I'll never step foot in a Cracker Barrel as long as I live. I went there once in disguise with my redneck family, and I felt so uncomfortable the whole time I was there. If you want to shake hands with a member of the KKK, go to a Cracker Barrel. There's 35 of them sitting there eating their grits. By the way, if there's 35 Klansmen in a Cracker Barrel, that means there's 35 people in a Cracker Barrel. Oh, and by the way, I'm not trying to be sexist with my language. The Klan treats women the same way they treat non-white males. So, I'm sorry, there are no Klans women. You're not accepted into the Klan. Unless you're just like, you're... whatever. I don't want to go there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make... That was a bad take. I shouldn't have brought it up. Fuck the KKK. and all of its offshoots and cousins. Okay? I'm not friendly to white supremacists. Or racists, or any of those pieces of shit bigots, because, you know, they're not proper humans. They're sewer mutants that dressed up like humans. Alright. I can't think of any other universal cheese foods in America that are cheese dishes that are cheese based. Somebody's going to bring up 37 of them in the comments that I forgot about. And I'm going to have to go through and check off all the ones that are regional that you probably only had when you were in that region. I'm just being honest here. There are a lot of regional cheese dishes in America, but they're not all universal. But yeah, melted cheese, shredded cheese, and slightly melted or baked cheese goes on almost any dish you can cook in America in some capacity. Whether it's spaghetti, lasagna, or even turkey. Fried chicken, you can have a side of cottage cheese with it. Very common side dish to go with your fried chicken. But usually mashed potatoes and corn. You often a little mini ear of corn, but sometimes just a couple of spoons of, you know, sweet corn. Maybe hominy, I guess, if you're in the South. Or whatever the fuck grits are. Are grits made out of corn? I don't know. I refuse to eat a grit. Every time I've been in a restaurant that offered grits, I was like, can I substitute that for anything else? And if they said no, I either said hold the grits or I gave them to someone else at the table. I'm not even going to try a grit. I don't know what the fuck it is. I'm not putting it in my body. I'm not even going to try grits. It could be the greatest food on the planet Earth. I'm not eating it. Sorry. Not that sorry. Actually, I don't give a shit. So I'm not sorry. Now you have snacks like relish trays that usually have little itty bitty squares of cheese. Now these are usually gonna be some type of cheddar, but this is where you might run into pepper jack or Colby jack, because sometimes if you're trying to have a fancy party and you put out a relish tray with cheese, you're gonna pick one of those two cheeses because people think they're fancy, I guess. In my experience, Colby jack is a little too spicy, but it's okay. And I forgot the other jack. Cheddar jack or whatever it's called. I can't remember the other. There's another jack cheese I can't remember. It's a little too soft and mushy for me, even when you don't cook it. And it doesn't melt, it bubbles. I don't like it. The other, you know, I've already mentioned the cheese tray with your crackers and meat. You know, that's a staple for, like, in America. It's usually a common snack that you put out at parties, besides the relish tray. And sometimes people have it on New Year's Eve, or occasionally just as a snack. It's essentially a Lunchable. That's basically what Lunchables are. Only they're fake crackers, they're not real Ritz crackers. And it's some kind of machine processed ham in some chemical that they call cheese that isn't cheese, but we'll go with it because it is what it is. And maybe bologna or salami in substitute of ham. Salami is a pretty good meat. Just throwing that out there. Pepperoni is the better version of salami. I don't know if pepperoni and salami are the same thing, but I can't tell the difference other than the taste. That's all I got for today. Stay cool.